Hello, everyone. Welcome to Steven Shinder reviews in video form. I'm just here sipping True Moo Star Wars inspired blue milk. Kind of reminds me of French vanilla coffee creamer, but anyway, I'm here to talk about The Bad Batch, which just wrapped up this week, and I've had some time to think it over. So, I've gonna talk broadly about the series. Well, I'm gonna go into spoilers. But yeah, I'm gonna evaluate the series starting from the beginning. I won't go too in depth as I don't want this video to go too long. But all that is to say, I expect if you're watching this, then you've seen the whole series, which makes things easier for me not having to explain as much. When the Clone Wars TV show was brought back for one final season that received high praise, it was a no brainer for Lucasfilm to make an animated series that continued in this animation style. The arc introducing the Bad Batch was part of the original plan for season 7, from what I understand, before the show got cancelled in the 2010s. But I don't think these characters would have gotten a spin off back then had the show kept going. I think bringing the Clone Wars back in this updated animation is really what ensured that they wanted another show that would utilize these assets, and it made sense to continue with clone trooper characters. The problem was, as fun as the Bad Batch arc in season 7 was, they felt like the surface level archetypes you expect from animated action teams. It didn't feel like there was much depth for any of them, except for Echo, who'd been through hell and just become a member of the squad during this arc. In the Bad Batch TV show, the inclusion of Omega is really what makes the characters in the squad feel more grounded as she tries to figure out her place in the galaxy. And over time, she became my favorite character on the squad. And then her brothers, the other characters on the squad, kind of felt samey to me over time. Like they each didn't evolve as much, like at least from my perspective. We do get some conflict regarding Crosshair's loyalties, of course. The series premiere showed us this when he didn't hesitate to follow orders and tried taking out a Jedi Padawan. Side note, I really do think this could have been a better scene had it not been Depa Balaba and Caleb Doom. That Order 66 scene had been told in the Kanan comics, and this show omits the nuance, the friendly relationship Caleb and Depa have with these other clone troopers. This could have just been any Jedi Padawan and still hammered home the same point, and you wouldn't have had the distraction of Caleb sounding too much like adult Kanan. This sort of thing is done better with Hera later on in the show, I'll admit. I know in the comics it's Kanan having flashbacks, so you could say his memories are showing things differently, but it's kind of ridiculous that we still have to come up with explanations like this. But all the stuff after this scene, the series felt strong to me for a time. I'd say at least the first half of the first season, before it started to feel to me like the momentum was coming to a halt. And then the end of the first season kind of left me feeling cold. So I think it was a 7 out of 10 for me that first season. Season 2, while perhaps bumpy at points, felt like an improvement to me, maybe an 8 out of 10 overall. Some of the side quests in the show I don't mind so much as other people seem to. Sometimes they can be kind of fun, but there are times when they can feel like they're not progressing that much. So I totally get the criticisms. I might be in the minority of preferring season 2 over season 1. I just overall was enjoying season 2 more consistently. And again, I rate these things based on how much I enjoy them, objectively good, objectively bad. I don't like feed into that too much because it's kind of silly to me that yeah, it's just easier for me to talk subjective. Nevertheless, I kept feeling confused by comments about Crosshair's development being the best thing ever. Maybe I just feel like I've seen too many Star Wars stories where we see the Imperial character get redeemed. I did like that Tech was getting more development, that was good, and he seemed to be resonating with the neurodivergent community, which is why I feel like it really was a mistake to kill him off. It was a bad look for the show. Fast forward to a year later when season 3 is airing, and I find myself not caring about the show quite as much. Part of that could be just stuff going on in my life, but I also think there were elements of the show I was kind of bored of by this point. And even though I haven't played Republic Commando as much as other fans have, it did bother me that Scourge from Delta Squad was included in the show at all, only to be an evil goon for the Empire with no development, really. The commandos in general just feel like set dressing on the show, which is really odd because if you're going to include Republic commandos, I'd think you'd want to honor the legacy of that corner of Star Wars in some way. There could have been some compelling arc that would have contributed to this clone rebellion idea. Scorch was truly wasted in this series. I thought it was very telling how early in season 3, all the praise I was seeing pertained to connections to the sequel era, with Palpatine's plan to clone himself and whatnot, rather than praise being aimed more toward the show's titular characters. It seemed to me like people were caring more about the lore for what comes later in the timeline, not just in terms of Project Necromancer, but also in regards to bridging the gap between this and Rebels when it comes to trajectories of certain clones. And I think all that's part of why some might not feel completely satisfied with the finale. And on top of that, I had conversations with people who wanted to know more about Echo and Rex's exploits with their attempt at rebellion, and were less interested in what was going on with the Bad Batch squad themselves. We had great clone characters on the show like Hauser, and people wanted to know more about Cody's trajectory. It felt to me like the situations involving the Batch as a team were less interesting as time went on. Some still really liked what was going on with Crosshair, but Omega's story was the only compelling one in my eyes. As the final season progressed, I came to realize that after 22 years, I finally had clone trooper fatigue. This show was feeling like just a transitional show, but for the next big thing. You also had this supposed mystery of the identity of CX2, with some theorizing it could be Tech. To be honest, I felt certain Tech was dead, unfortunately, and I felt so checked out during season 3 that I did not care whatsoever about CX2's identity. I know there was like a lot of speculation. Yeah, lots of people missing Tech, even to the point where they imagined an empty chair. That was the whole thing. But yeah, CX2's identity, I truly did not believe it was Tech most of the time, and I didn't really care about his identity, so I wasn't phased when there was no reveal. Maybe Red X from Teen Titans primed me for this sort of thing, I don't know. While some characters could have been fleshed out better, I also think to some degree, Star Wars fans have become too accustomed to every little thing between every story being explained. Some want to see how exactly Wolf ends up with Rex, where they're at in Rebels, but I feel like it's not too difficult to just imagine how that happens. I do feel certain that Ventress's survival will be explained, but her role on this show really could have been fulfilled by any Force Caesar who's not victim to Order 66. It felt like they included her just so she could be put in the trailer and hype people up. Overall, the final season feels like a 6 out of 10 to me, again, in terms of my own enjoyment, so it's barely just okay to me. But the finale I thought was ever so slightly better than that average, maybe 6.75, maybe a 7, I don't know, but I do think it was somewhat predictable. I see online that lots of people love it and seem content that the survivors at least get a happy ending. I'm happy for those fans, but this didn't give me the emotional punch that the finales for the Clone Wars and Rebels gave me. It was another rescue mission like Resistance, which is a show I think could have been better, and this finale feels only slightly better than that show's finale to me. Even the time skip in the epilogue felt predictable to me. I kind of think maybe we've been having too many time skip endings in animated shows these last several years, and not just in Star Wars. Omega joining the rebellion just feels like, oh, yeah, of course. Okay. I do wonder if this is their way of finally doing a Rebels animated sequel series of sorts, which I think was on the table at some point before getting reshuffled and reworked as the live action Ahsoka series. If set after the liberation of Lothal, maybe we could see Omega interacting with the Ghost crew who are still around in the galaxy during the Galactic Civil War. Maybe people would finally get to see Scarif from the Ghost perspective, but again, I don't think every little gap needs to be filled, and the Galactic Civil War era has been done to death to the point where I'm not sure it can be kept fresh. I mean, to be fair, Rogue One added fresh stuff to it, so I could be wrong, and maybe there could be more context added that some people were looking for in the Ahsoka series, for all we know. So overall, I guess my average for this show is 7 out of 10. Overall, it's fine. I'm not really sure how excited I would be for whatever the next ongoing animated series will be. Tales of the Empire could be interesting, and Visions really impresses me each time it drops episodes. But other than that, I don't know. I'm really hoping The Acolyte adds more new things to the Star Wars universe. I think that'll be really pivotal in deciding the direction of the franchise. So, those are my thoughts. To me, the series is somewhat decent, but it can be frustrating when there's this feeling that things can be done better. But the character is getting a happy ending. I'm glad that some people like love that and find relief and comfort in that. But yeah, I don't know. Like, these are just all my thoughts and feelings on the show. And will I feel different if I rewatch the whole show a few years down the line? I don't know. That sort of thing has happened before, so could be possible. But this is just how I feel about the Bad Batch series as a whole as of now. So thanks for tuning in, and see you around.